morning. Let me try again. Good morning.
Good morning.
My God. The reason why Udacity exists is I have this dream that if we can make education globally, universally available, if it doesn't matter whether you live in the Middle East or in South America, you get the same education everywhere, that we can completely transform the world. I want to thank all of you for the trust you're putting in us by giving us your time, your attention, and coming here. You guys are my heroes, and we do what we do because of you. Thank you. Life is short. Life is crazy. A few months ago, we started a nano-degree program on self-driving cars. Anybody here enrolled? Woohoo! Awesome. That's great. We are the only institution in the world who teaches self-driving cars. We have over 5,000 students, which means we teach more engineers for this trade than all universities combined. And I have been blown away what you guys are accomplishing. And I'm not saying this as a novice or as an educator. I'm saying this because I've done a thing or two on self-driving cars myself. And I know how hard it is. You've been blowing my mind. Oliver, who runs our local car team on the car side, will have a session this afternoon and show what you guys as students have accomplished in our car in terms of self-driving car capability. And not to steal his thunder, but you students just met a major milestone by building and enabling our car to drive itself from here to San Francisco and El Camino Real 100% autonomous. This is a nice applause. I can tell you, when I founded the Google team, for us to do the stretch from here to San Francisco, the same road, took more than a year of work. And it took you guys, students, thanks to your contributions, about 3 months to build that capability. So the Udacity self-driving car is not just an educational program, it's also a milestone in self-driving. We actually now officially a California-registered self-driving car company. How cool is that? The students that made this possible are probably in this audience, are people who are totally amazing. Elena is not with us, she's in Belarus, but she did really blow-away work on behavioral cloning, a project that all of you are working on. In fact, she's not the only one. There are about 5,000 other great people doing amazing work on behavioral cloning. But she's one of the people who work day and night to really put a component of our software together. Vivek is also not here today, unfortunately. Is actually a professor himself, PhD professor, and while being a professor, got bored with what professors do, which is writing proposals and stuff like this, and wanted to go back to coding and found another degree and became a student again. And he's also not just writing, he wrote a piece of software that blew my mind. He was able to track other cars just using a camera alone, something I'd never been able to accomplish at Google when I was there. He wrote this in record time. He's also a beautiful community person who really helps other students like crazy to make advances. And lastly, third person I want to mention is John, and John actually is in the audience. John? Chen? Yes. It never occurred to me that students like John and many other students could write software at a level that I think is on par with the absolute best self-driving engineering I've seen in my life. And I'm humbled to see, oh my God, I always feel like when I look at these results and Oliver flips these videos by me, I was humbled to realize that your IQ is probably twice my IQ, and I get the privilege to work with all of you. We have a Udacity race team that's entirely here. It's entering. Can you guys stand up? So it's, let's see, Anthony Navarro, Christy Cull, Jerry Kong, Maurizio Men, Nadia Yana, John Chen, Dean Liu, Claudio Salvatore De Mutis, and Chris Grundig are the names. And they are joining the Polysync self-driving car race event on our behalf. Hopefully Udacity wins. Udacity! I want to take some time and answer any question you might have. We have 2 microphones. There's one over there and one over there. I usually just speak as a professor. If you see me in class, I don't probably listen to you very much. I'm just talking. So it's a good chance to discuss anything that's on your mind. Here's a question right here. Use the microphone, please. Thank you.
So currently, self-driving cars, the car itself is X amount of dollars, with the sensors and everything is the same price of the car itself. And I think the biggest impact could be made in the third world countries where the roads are not always perfect, and you can have like self-driving cars which are building roads. You know what I mean? Like the machine itself is building the infrastructure for other machines. So how do you envision cheap self-driving cars? Like we have mobile phones, so every person has a version of their own like personal transportation.
So I hear you ask 2 questions. One is, how do you envision cost-effective, cheap self-driving cars? And the second, why don't cars build their own roads?
Yeah.
So I've never studied cars that build their own roads. That is a new question. I also don't know obviously we have heavy automation in road building. I see less of a reason to get rid of humans entirely for road building than road using, because we build the road once, but we use it like 10,000 times every day. The costs are actually massively shifting right now in this field. When I first worked with radars, which is what usually drives the cruise control, the cheapest radar I could buy was $60,000. And if you go to Delphi or Continental or Bosch today, you get the same radar for about $80 US. And the difference is that we now have scale products, you call it adaptive cruise control, that use these radars, and they're being manufactured in the millions as opposed to the individual units. The laser world hasn't reached that level yet. So if you go to Velodyne and order a laser, it comes back 6 months later with a handwritten serial number. They build them still one-on-one. But there's a whole bunch of great startups in that space. And if you have started aspirations in space, it's a great space to be in. We have actually moved a lot into camera images. So what Oliver showed you later is most of it is driven by cameras. And cameras have become commodities. They're super cheap. So I think the costs will not be the issue. The real challenge is the brains, is to make sure that they are 100% safe and not just 99.999% safe.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah.
Great. Can you hear me okay? So we're a deep learning company, and we're looking at the underprivileged people who didn't have the chance to get great engineering education or math and programming and AI. And we're kind of staffing up a team to do data labeling, collection, and annotation, things like that, for refugees in Jordan, as well as India and things like that. But was wondering, like, what is Udacity's thought process for enabling these people who didn't have such a great education to contribute and grow jobs and do things that are interesting and participate in the economy?
If I got my way and had infinite time, then I would love to address every job in the world and help every single person in the world. We have, at this point, 25,000 or so enrolled students, and there's 7.4 billion people. We're actually doing very, very poorly relative to what we should be doing in our company. And we're growing, obviously, rapidly, and we are trying to build the trust. But we are very much arguing internally, whether we only do bleeding edge Silicon Valley, which is self-driving car, robotics as we announced today, machine learning, or whether we also start going down to lesser paid jobs, require lesser pre-qualifications. We have some beginning nano degrees, deep learning is among them, introduction to programming. And I think we're going to stay in the tech space for now. We stay in the tech space for multiple reasons. One, it's super hot. It's very fast moving, and it can be conveyed online very well, whereas other fields like nursing and so on would probably have a much more physical dimension. But yes, I want to get to the point where every single person on the planet has a chance to get an education that fits them. Just can't do everything on the same day, unfortunately. That's the main obstacle. But yeah, I think we're making progress. There's a lot of work left for us to do.
Yeah, if you have any thoughts on, enablement or things others that can do, not necessarily Udacity. Sorry, I'm saying if you have any thoughts on things that others can do to enable this class of people or these underprivileged people, would love to hear your thoughts on that, and I'll conclude with that.
We have a very, very active scholarship program now that Stuart Fry is building up. And it's been my personal passion. I make no secret of this. It's my personal passion to go to the Middle East and help jumpstart. I've talked to the King of Jordan. We're in negotiations with them. We have now ground offices in Saudi Arabia, specifically so we go to the Middle East and say, look, guys, anybody here who grows up can become an Android developer. I really make this to be the Udacity contribution to world peace. I don't want to just sit there and say things. I want to do things. And I feel, especially in the Middle East, to be honest, great education is actually not as accessible as for me here in America. But yeah, if you have suggestions, send me email. It's thrun@udacity.com.
Great,
and
thank you.
I'd love to hear. Yes. You go over there and there's a line.
Thank you.
One line up.
I guess this question kind of marries with the previous question, but Udacity started with when the nano degree started, it was the front end nano degree, and then very quickly career services came up around that and started reviewing like GitHub and LinkedIn and resumes, and now is moving into AI and machine learning, and there's so much growth and expansion, and the career services team has grown with that also, and helping hundreds of students find jobs, and with like the nano degree plus. So what do you think are the next steps of Udacity and career services team moving forward from this point on helping students connect with more jobs?
Yeah, when we started Udacity, we really thought education isn't a thing in a vacuum you do for yourself, although for some people it is. But we really felt if you're serious about education, then we got to be serious about jobs. And that made us basically start two companies, not one company, right? So a job company that helps people find jobs, and an education company. But with either piece missing, it's almost like a water pipe that's clogged somewhere, so you go to this point and can't go further. That's why in the last year, we probably put even more emphasis on jobs and job placement and job services, career services, than we put even on education, to be honest. Strategically, it's been really important for us to do both, because we believe we see this as a pipe, right? Like great people come in, and we find them a little bit, and then we have to find them a great place in life. Going forward, we're just going to do more of this, honestly. We launched a site called Blitz. Blitz is, I guess, a German word. Our site where all of you, upon graduation, can interact with companies. We cater Blitz a lot to startup companies. Startup companies in the Valley are desperate to find talent like yourself, turns out. Any machine learning person usually gets a job here. Any self-driving car engineer typically gets a job, robotics person. And we found that by marrying you guys with startup companies to a platform like Blitz, we can de-risk it for everybody. We can de-risk it for you because you're not moving your entire family to a place, a company you don't know. And we de-risk it for the startup company because they can try you out and work with you and see if they like working with you. And that's been phenomenally successful. We've placed a good number of people in jobs afterwards. I just want to stay creative and innovative and see what it takes. I mean, we are reinventing everything. We're building basically a shadow university system here and reimagining what a university should be in the 21st century. We're just at the beginning, honestly. We fail. There's students who can't find jobs. There's students who aren't able to give the self-confidence to find a job. But we're doing our best to make that thing really happen. And I'm very proud of our progress so far.
Awesome. Thank you.
So in the logging industry, when a tree comes down, it's directly replaced by a new tree.
Which industry, sorry?
In the logging industry, when trees come down,
Yes.
they're immediately replaced by the new tree.
Yeah.
And that's responsibility of the logging industry to do that.
Yeah.
When AI and automated cars, or even ride sharing, takes away jobs, like I know Udacity does a great job of creating opportunities for learning and taking on new jobs, but do you feel that there's a responsibility on the large industries to either slow down or directly replace those jobs? Because some people can't wait the 6 months it takes to ramp up in an entirely new career.
We are in a transition period that's extremely significant, and I don't think people see this with open eyes yet. We are in a period that's akin of the beginning of the agricultural revolution when the steam engine was invented. And while agricultural machine never really replaced people in the physical sense or duplicated people, it made farmers 100 times as efficient. And before that, 90 or so percent of Europeans worked in farming. After that, it was less than 2%. What's happening today is that artificial intelligence will take any office job that's repetitive, will make people 100 times as effective. So if you're an accountant, if you're a lawyer, if you're a medical doctor, if there's a whole spectrum of jobs, 75% of Americans work in offices. There's a whole spectrum of jobs that people do the same repetitive stuff over and over again. And we're going to invent AI that makes people 100 times as effective. And if you don't believe it, check out the cover of Nature about a month ago on skin cancer, where students from Stanford accomplished the training of a deep network of the type we teach here to detect skin cancer at an accuracy that rivals the best human dermatologists. So in the future, rather than going to a doctor, you pull out your phone and you get the same diagnostic quality. Now, the responsibility of new jobs is a tricky question. I think it's going to put a burden on all of us. I think the agricultural revolution was great. I'm super happy I don't have to work in the field every day. I'm actually happy to be here. None of you were here without it. And all the stuff we care about, from our car to our microphone to our smartphone, wouldn't exist and didn't exist prior to the revolution. It did, however, change the notion of human labor. Had we gotten together 400 years ago, you would have stood there without a microphone and saying, look, I work in the field every day, and what's going to happen when we invent stuff that's stronger than me? What's going to happen to me? And what happened is, life became so much better. We started learning how to read, how to write, how to communicate, how to do research, how to invent things, and how to make the world better and faster and safer. That's just going to be on steroids. So what I envision is that thanks to AI, I think AI is the single biggest thing happening today, that we can get rid of repetitive, remedial, boring work and replace it with creative work. All of you are incredibly creative. And most people I know are insanely creative and are being forced to do uncreative work every day, and that pains me. We're going to go into a phase where everybody can do just really creative work. They can build, say, a self-driving car in a day, or a Didi in a day, Bob spoke earlier, or you can build an Amazon in a day. And you have this idea in the evening, and you push a few buttons, and the next morning you can try it out. There's always, these transformations, talking about responsibility, they're always global, and technology is just an enabler, to be honest. They affect real people. And it's important to have a dialogue on this. I think it's unstoppable. I'd rather be on the tsunami than under the tsunami. And quite frankly, I'm actually really excited to live today because I firmly believe that only 1% of interesting things have been invented yet, and 99% has not been invented yet. And you're the people who are going to invent the next percent of cool stuff to invent. Thanks. Yes?
Hey, first off, I'd like to thank all of you guys, at Udacity. You guys have been a true inspiration to me. I love learning, and you guys have given me higher kicks than alcohol or illegal drugs or legal drugs combined.
Thank you.
So thanks a lot. Keep up the great work. So now coming to the questions. I have two questions. So what I see in today's world is a little bit concerning, a lot of polarization. There's a disparity of sorts. You have people who love to learn, who use Udacity and other platforms to learn.
And yourself.
Who use internet to learn, to become more aware of what's happening. But at the same time, there are people who are using it for other purposes. It's like when television was invented, people called it the idiot box. But television had some good stuff as well. So today, it's the other extreme. Though information is on demand, people choose to check out stuff which really is not helping our society, if you know what I mean. We are creating antisocial elements or dumbed down people who can fall prey to anything they see.
Yeah, and they tweet at 5 in the morning, I know.
So, I mean, how do we solve this? And I mean, an extreme example is there's one segment which is saying climate change is real. It's a real problem. But suddenly there is another group saying climate change is hoax.
Yeah.
Now, what do we do about this?
So, first, thanks for your compliments. And honestly, I love any of those emails I get where someone says, here's something you did great in my life, or Udacity did for us. And we pass them around the company every single time. We have about 250 totally dedicated people who work day and night to make these things possible. So every time, thank you so much. Any of us who listen to another thing, we're actually really grateful for this. It's wonderful for our people. We're very mission-driven. It's a question that I don't think Udacity can fix, but I'm an optimist. And I would implore all of you to be optimists. It'll always be the case there'll be a plurality of opinions. And it'll always be the case that even the majority opinion can be wrong. If you look at the history of this country, for example, not too long ago, we believed that a marriage between a black person and a white person was not okay, or it was not okay to have two men or two women marry, and that opinion was revised. The same happens in science. If you look at medical treatment 100 years ago, you'd be shocked what people believed at the time before we had evidence-based medicine. I would argue we should be optimistic for two reasons, okay? One is the world is going in the right direction. Science is winning, hands down. And there are hiccups and there are moments of desperation, but in the grand scheme of things, science is winning. And as a result, we all live better lives than even our parents' generation. Second reason is, if you're not an optimist, then it's not going to happen. We need the optimists in the world, like yourself, to make the change happen. We need to believe it. And whatever we believe will happen, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my question is basically on the hardware computation capability. What are the challenges that lie ahead? Because there are millions of algorithms coming up in terms of machine learning and other stuff. And there are new algorithms coming up every day. And the amount of computational capability needed for these algorithms are really heavy. So what do you think are the challenges that lie ahead in terms of hardware computation?
LiDAR, you mean?
Sorry?
The challenges that LiDAR has?
No, challenges lie ahead of us.
Oh, the challenges lie ahead.
Yeah.
In terms of machine learning?
Yeah.
If I were to characterize, say, machine learning is certainly the big new thing in artificial intelligence. And I think what we're learning is that programming is kind of obsolete in that a software engineer is someone who instructs a machine with like millions of rules for every contingency. And it's really hard, as you know, because you're all learning it and doing it professionally. And that's why you pay them so much money, because it's so hard. The lesson for me in deep learning is we can instruct a machine with data. And data itself takes up its own life. Very much like the way we raise children. We don't raise children by giving a rule for every contingency in the first 18 years. We let them teach based on data. So we're making computers learn very much human-like. But there's still an enormous gap between both. Where computers today succeed, and I think it's phenomenal to work on it, to be honest, is when you have vast amounts of data of something highly repetitive. Like, for example, diagnosing skin cancer, we had 129,000 images. No human dermatologist can ever study 129,000 images. So when data, the size of data vastly outweighs what a human could do, you can get to the point where the machine becomes better and better and better. What machines don't do at all, in my opinion, is go beyond this. like inventing of discovering spatial relativity or a new law in nature, or being able to take the learnings from over here and transfer it to a completely different field over here. And I'm not even sure we have the right algorithms quite yet to do this. But obviously, as machine learning and computers in general proceed, I would love to see work on how can we build a universal learning machine and get to more of a broad AI than a very narrow AI. Today's AI is so narrow that the Google self-driving car cannot fly a plane, and AlphaGo can't play chess, right? So narrow. Anyhow, last question, and I apologize for cutting it short.
Okay. First of all, Udacity obviously excels as an education company, so I have a question about the job aspect of Udacity. So at AAAI, you said that being a Udacity nanodegree grad comes, maybe priority treatment in the hiring process. But the plus degrees do have a lot of promise as well. But what does that specifically mean for us? Does it necessarily mean an automatic interview at say Google, or does it mean like your guaranteed spot at Udacity Blitz and further showcase your work in the case of a plus grad, or just simply career advice? What specifically do you mean?
For those of you who are not familiar, we created this thing called Udacity Plus a little more than a year ago, and it's basically Udacity nanodegree, where we say if you are eligible to work, so you can't be 5 years old, and you're interested in a job and you can't find one, we just give you all your tuition back, no questions asked. And we did this in part to hold ourselves accountable, to make clear to ourselves we are serious about jobs and we can't just fake it and say it. If we fail in doing our mission, then we deserve to make no money. I think right now our job success rate is north of 90%. Last I heard it was 96%, so I'm very proud of this. But we have paid some students money back. Thank you. Yeah. But we cannot, of course, guarantee an interview. We do have amazing partnerships. And it's actually interesting because I sit on the side where I talk to companies like Tesla and so on, and various other tech companies, NVIDIA, Google, of course, one of our prime partners, AT&T. And the companies we talk to are desperate. The reason why Mercedes, for example, is so active in building self-driving car nanodegree, or Google with Android, and NVIDIA, all these wonderful companies, Didi, is there's actually a thirst for great talent with a great skill set. And there's an understanding that colleges tend not to produce the right skill set. Machine learning is the hottest thing on the planet right now, one of the hottest things. There's only one college that produces a machine learning degree. It's called Carnegie Mellon. Like, why is it just one university? Why isn't there like 4,000 different degrees? So we believe by working so closely with such fantastic companies, we get a leg up in job placement, and we're willing to pay for it if not. Thank you so much. You guys are my inspiration. I really believe there's going to be a future where we all learn all our time, and we work really close with the companies that we'd love to work with and we adore. And you are making it possible. You are partners and you are students. Thank you.